Hello, and welcome back to the 12th episode of the Pokemon Scarlet Surprise Trade Crochet Badge Quest series. It's been a while, hasn't it? I can only apologise for the abominable gap between this video and the last. My excuses are many: wrist pain, lack of motivation, and I accidentally became important at work, just to name a few. But let's put that past us and get into this video. For anyone just joining us, I'm surprise trading a Pokemon before each gym, Titan, and Team Starbase, and then crocheting the resulting Pokemon each time. Last time I received the fully evolved Dodrio that sped through Larry's normal type gym. I ended that episode by catching this Zorua who was sent off for trades. In return I received a Sprigatito, a fan favourite starter Pokemon from this very generation, also our third grass type Pokemon for the series. Let's take a quick look at Scrubber Bingo. She's level 2 with an impish nature and no marks or ribbons. So training is required, which is a given at this point in the challenge, unless I'm receiving those high level disobedient Pokemon. Looking at our remaining badges, I think the best course of action would be to head to the Psychic Gym in Alfornada. Bibabunko will eventually evolve into the Grass Dark Meowscarada, so that gym should be a cakewalk for our cat. With all that set, it's time to break down Stippy Steppo's design for Crochet. The head is actually the largest part of this Pokemon. Generation 9 really loves Pokemon with huge heads. It's oval shaped and features two large pointed ears at the top. Curly whiskers sprout out the sides of the head. A leaf-shaped pattern adorns the face, big enough to encompass the round eyes. The head connects to the body with a collar of leaves. The first collar is made up of tufts of fur, with the bottom one being a leaf-like pattern. The tiny cat body is relatively unremarkable. It's quite small compared to the head, with thin legs. Toe beans are visible on each paw. The tail is quite fat with a thin point and a single curled tuft juts out. The colours I'll use for Green Beam and the rest of the line, in fact, will be a light green for the majority of the head and body, and a darker green for the ears and leaves. And a pink will be used for the embroidered nose and toe beans. That's pretty much it, nice and simple colour palette. I started this crochet project back in July, so you'll have to bear with me as I try to remember the process with both the crochet and gameplay as I look back on this old footage. I don't really have the best of memories. So I start with the head. It's the biggest part, so it makes sense to begin there. I make an oval shape. I do this from left to right across the head as opposed to top to bottom, how I would crochet most heads. Next comes the body. It's a fraction of the size of the head, but I make it in a similar fashion. I found the legs difficult to make as they're so slim, and I am making Fuffabuffo smaller than I make most of my crochet projects. The front pair I make straight, with a slightly bigger base for the foot. With the back pair, I add a curve and a thicker thigh to give it that cat-like shape. It actually stands up pretty well. It's so nice to make a quadrupedal Pokemon again, not like that feeling will last long. Before I can attach the heads to the body, I need to make the collars. In a darker green, I make this leaf-like shape. 3 short leaves at the front with 2 longer leaves at the sides. The tuft collar is made in a star shape, essentially a small circle with 6 offshoots. The ears are two-toned, a dark green outer ear with a light green inner ear. I make these separately. The darker part is made first. I make a triangular cone that can be flattened and curved into shape. The inner ear is then just simply a flat triangle that can fit inside that curve. So far, so good. For the tail, I start at the thin tip. I give it a bit of a curve before increasing my rounds to make that sudden bushiness. I make up 6 long cones for the whiskers, the edge ones being slightly thicker. Finally, it's time to make the face leaf. I thought it'd be best to start with a circle, measuring it against the head to get a decent size. Then I planned to make each section as an offshoot to that original circle. I'll be honest, I'm not fully happy with how this turned out. For one, it's a touch too small and it's also slightly lopsided. You'll see me do something different for Floragato's face pattern, and I kind of think I should have gone back and redid Crubbadubbo's pattern the same way. But hey ho, here's a finished Frosty Peepo, complete with embroidered toe beans and felt eyes. Let's get back to the game where we need to train up to get our Floragato. I make my way towards Alfanada, taking this coastal mountain path and tackling the trainers along the way. Nut Columbo is too weak to battle for herself, so I keep her in the party as her big brothers show her how it's done. Backpacker Paul and his Go-Goat are more than enough experience to boost us up to the required evolution level. I teach Chopper Mango a few moves and then it's already time to evolve. A brief time with our first stage starter, but let's take a look at our new Floragato. Floragato is more lynx-like in its appearance compared to Sprigatito and becomes bipedal. It still has a large head, but its body catches up. The head is taller than it is wide, and the ears become thick cones that almost flatten back to give that airplane ear look. They have the dark green tips that featured prominently on Sabadato's ears. The whiskers on the side of the head remain curly, but are longer, and the face pattern is wider, not quite resembling a leaf anymore. It features a new darker green on top of the two previous greens we've used. Floragato's body is slender and mostly covered by a large scarf. The scarf wraps around the neck, 2 leaves sticking out of the back, and covers the front of the body with 5 points curling upwards. It changes colour partway down in a pointed pattern. A small pink flowerbud yo-yo adorns the scarf at the neck. This is used for battling and illusions, attached to a vine. Floragato's arms are thin at the top and become wider and flared towards the wrist, with a 5-petaled pattern, giving it a sleeve of sorts, leaning into that magician theme that the evolution line becomes. The paws are dark green and feature 3 bulbous taloned fingers. A circular pink paw pad sits on the palm. Floragato's legs and feet resemble boots. They curve like a cat's legs, but switch colour and feature a light green diamond shape on the back of each. Finally, the tail remains the constant throughout, very similar to Giver Gregor's. The only colours I'm adding to this Pokemon are the darker green for the ears, scarf, paws, legs and face, and a lighter pink for the pattern with the yo-yo. The head becomes the starting point. You see me craft a ball 1,000 times, but this one is just slightly longer to give the head some height. Floragato has a slight 5 head. I make the ears next, starting with the middle strength green. I make a cone before switching colour to the lighter tone. The ears become wider as they reach the head, so I try to match this. I forget to make my colour change at an angle, so we'll just pretend that I did and move on. I work on the body from the bottom up. When I make a piece like this, I find that the decreasing end has very wide stitches that make the stuffing visible. By doing it from the bottom up, I can hide these decreases with the scarf and head. Jumping back up to the head, I make the whiskers. These are just long tubes. I don't add any special stitches to curve them, as I can just curve them myself when they attach to the head. I make the foot with that new darker green and add some short rows to give it a bend at the ankle. I work up the leg, switching colours slowly in a pointed fashion and also working in the diamond on the back. I make the thighs a little thicker and then make a second leg to attach to the body. For the hands, I make 3 balls for the fingers. These can be crocheted together as I work up the rest of the hand. For the arms, I wasn't sure whether to keep going from the hands with a colour change or do them completely separate. I decided to do the latter, but I think the former idea would have worked just as well. I make a loop and continue working rounds from the shoulder down to the elbow. At that point, I flare it out and add the 5-star pattern around the edge. I thought by doing the hand and arms as separate pieces, I'd get a good effect of the paws hiding inside the sleeve. It works to an extent, so I was pleased enough to continue. I make a small circle in pink for the paw pads. The scarf begins from the bottom. I make a cone with the darker green and work upward, crocheting a triangle on the front loops. This felt easier than doing a triangular colour change. I switch to the middle green and finish upwards to the neck. I make a long chain to act as a loop to go around the neck. All of this will be hidden by the head when it's attached anyway. Two long tubes act as the pieces that spring out the back of the scarf, then 4 small cones can be attached to the main body of the scarf. The face mask had me a little stumped. I knew I didn't want to do it like Sprigatito's, so I decided to break it down into different shapes. If I could do one side and then the other and then stitch them together, it might be easier. So I make a semicircle with a long triangle on one side. Together these two give a good mask shape. The nose and the colon-3 mouth is another separate piece that looks similar to an upside down heart. All of these together make a pretty decent face pattern, especially when I add on the pink nose. The tail is the exact same pattern as Sprig's, but I make it slightly larger to fit Floragato's frame better. Finally, I make the yo-yo. I make this disc shape and then the pattern is embroidered on with that lighter pink. This is the part where I played Who's That Pokemon with my followers. I posted this photo several months after the release of the Dodrio video, so I didn't expect anyone to recall the last video's clue. It was here, by the way. Evil Larry shows up as a Sprigatito over Larry's gym photo. I had a few incorrect guesses, most of them being Tinkerton, but also a fair few correct ones. Have you spotted the clue for the next Pokemon in this video?
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. I mean, it's my job, right?
With all that done, Floragato is ready to continue her training on that long Alfornado path. We continue along the coastal path, still doing switch training. I wanted to point out this strange trainer who's in an odd position, so it forces your trainer to stand behind the opposing Passimian. After that small betrayal, we enter the Alfornado Cavern. Filled with tons of trainers and wild Pokemon, this is a perfect place to evolve before reaching our challenge. Floragato gains levels quickly, switching with the rest of the team, still just slightly too low level to be taking on anything herself. U-turn is a great move here, letting me assess the opponent's Pokemon and level, and then getting a quick hit in before switching out. Despite Floragato's high speed, there's still times where we got outsped and can't tank a hit, like this Lycanroc who uses Roar to bring out Floragato and immediately one-shots it with Rock Slide. If any of this footage looks different from my previous videos, this is actually the first Badge Quest video I recorded on the Switch 2, so there are a ton of Pokemon spawning in. Maybe too many, so I find it difficult to navigate the cave without bumping into them. Finally reaching the end of the cavern, Floragato is level 35, just one level away from evolving. Aizen the Courier and his Revavroom are just enough experience to level up Floragato one more time and evolve her into the magician Pokemon Meowscarada. She immediately learns her signature move, Flower Trick, a 70 base power move that never misses and always crits. Seems a bit broken, but I'll take it. Now, instead of going into the breakdown of Meowscarada's design and crochet, I want to gain just a few more levels before I jump into all that. Tulip, the gym leader, has Pokemon in the low 40s, so I want to level the playing field a little. I train against wild Pokemon around Alfornado for a bit. At level 38, Meowscarada learns Night Slash, a dark type move that will be perfect for the upcoming gym. I end my training around level 44, just one level lower than Tulip's ace Florges. Time to finally look at this design. Meowscarada becomes even more anthropomorphic than Floragato. The ears are now thin and folded back, almost hidden by the large tufts of fur that branch out of each cheek. The head is mostly covered by a large 4-pointed mask. The top 2 points are quite long, with the bottom ones being shorter. This mask features a diamond pattern in the centre and 2 more that overlap the half-open eyes. Meowscarada has an unusual zigzag mouth. The body is long, similar to Floragato's, and cuffs off like little booty shorts at the thighs, making way for the long, darker green legs. The arms begin thin at the shoulder and then become super fat at the end, like puffy sleeves.
Now that's a great looking shirt. Aye, Captain. Yeah.
The paws are round, pink paw pads still sitting on the palm. The round fingers now feature green claws. Meowscarada wears a pink flower collar with 6 petals. It sits just atop Meowscarada's cape. The cape reaches down the front with 2 points, with the back also splitting in 2. They have curved offshoots on each side, kind of like Floragato's scarf but split in 2. The inside of the cape is lined with a reflective material, allowing Meowscarada to perform her tricks. The tail is still the constant, remaining the same as the previous 2 evolutions. Floragato's flower yo-yo has now become a floating flower, a smoke and mirrors trick that Meowscarada performs using transparent vines. The official art shows this large flower bulb, but the in-game model features 3 leaves instead. The bulb is actually used for the flower trick move, becoming a bomb, but the default is the leaf look. The only new colour I'm adding is this even darker green for the legs, mask and cloak. So I begin where you'd expect me to, the legs. I thought by starting at the legs I could work upwards, connect them and then finish out the body. I use short rows to give the foot and leg the appropriate turns that Meowscarada has. Once I've built enough height to the leg, I begin to thicken the thighs and then switch colour to the main body's light green. Once switched, I work the cut off triangles in the front loops. I begin another leg before I can attach them together. After they've been successfully attached, I can crochet around to give the crotch area some shape. I'll skip ahead here because it is just a lot of rounds to finish the body. I end at the neck because I want to leave room for the petal collar and cloak. For that collar, I make a loop and begin to crochet chains branching out from those rounds. I add double and triple crochets to give the petal shape and continue around. It should sit just nice around the neck. I forgot to record the process of me making a second flower, but I add those together and stuff them to give a bit of depth to the collar. I make Meowscarada's paws differently to Floragato's. I begin with the fingers as before, but then I make the hands separate. I make a disc shape and add a paw pad. The fingers can be sewn on after, so it looks like Meowscarada is curling her fingers inwards. I start the sleeve at the thick side. Once I have a large enough circle, I work up the arm, decreasing the size of my rounds until I reach the elbow. Then I make a thin tube up to the shoulder. I can then attach the fingers to the hands and the hands to the arms. I wasn't sure on how to make the cloak shape at first, but I thought it'd be best to make it as 2 separate pieces. I make a long triangle for the front and then thicken it out as it reaches down the back, branching out those small offshoots. I make the exact same shape in a light green to act as the inside of the cloak. I then realise I've done this in the wrong green colour and have to remake it. I don't make it to fit the full piece as the front of the cloak will be pinned to Meowscarada anyway. For the head, I make a similar shape to Floragato, but add in a few increases to make a snout shape. The tufts of fur on the side of the head are just curved cones, and the ears are thin cones that I'll curve back once I've sewn them on. I make the tail as I've done before, making it about the same size as Floragato's. Finally, moving on to the mask, I make this as 2 pieces as well. I make a long triangle and then change the direction of my rows with some short rows, letting me make a short triangle for the bottom of the mask. The 2 pieces come together like a butterfly and can be stitched to the face. I made a few simple leaves for the flower trick and stitched them together. They can float around with some dental floss. I give her the diamond details along with eyes, nose and a stitched mouth. I add paw pads on the bottom of the feet and Meowscarada is ready to deliver the prestige. Alfornada is probably one of the nicest looking cities in Scarlet and Violet. I know that's not saying much with the state of the game, but it has some charming design that really differentiates it from other locations. The old party sprites adorn the floor and walls in a mosaic style, reminding me of the Gaudi architecture in Barcelona. It's a real nice place in an otherwise bland game. Heading to the gym, we have to do probably the worst gym challenge in the game. I love you Dendra, you're so hot, but this minigame is just so buns. Between the strange emotion game, we have some battles. Meowscarada destroys her opponents with ease. Maybe I could have come into this at a lower level. It's now time to put on a magic show for Tulip, the psychic type gym leader of this gym. She's so pretty, but sadly I feel, leaves no real lasting impression in the game. She's overshadowed by big personalities like Larry and Ayano, and doesn't even take part in her own gym challenge like Kofu. It's a real shame because I like her design. We begin the battle with Tulip sending out her Farigiraf. A Night Slash from Meowscarada does about 2/3. I was actually expecting more. This allows Farigiraf to set up Reflect, boosting the opponent's physical defences for the next few turns. Meowscarada does have something up her sleeve to deal with this though. A second Night Slash finishes off the giraffe and Tulip sends out her Gardevoir. Gardevoir has been Psychic and Fairy type since Generation 6, so Meowscarada could be hit with some super effective hits here. That is unless we Terrastalise into a pure Grass type. A stab, Terrastal boosted Flower Trick should do big damage. Remember I said it always crits earlier? That will bypass the Reflect set up by Farigiraf, allowing Meowscarada to do the full amount of damage to Gardevoir. A single Flower Trick knocks out Gardevoir and Tulip sends out Espathra. This bird oddly survives a Flower Trick and hits back with a strong Psychic, now able to hit us after losing our Dark typing. A Night Slash on the next turn takes out Espathra, but it leaves me apprehensive about the incoming ace. Tulip sends in Florges, a pure Fairy type Pokemon. She instantly Terrastalizes her into a Psychic type, and I try for a Flower Trick. We do a lot of damage, but not enough to knock out the Florges. She hits back with an absolutely massive Moonblast, taking Meowscarada down to just 3 hit points. I know Meowscarada has insane speed, so I will definitely outspeed next turn. No need to heal up, just attack. I strike with a Night Slash and the Florges faints. Gaining our 5th gym badge allows Pokemon up to level 45 to obey us in battle. Tulip leaves with her Medicham bodyguards, never to be seen again. This isn't where we'll end though. Geeta and Nemona meet us after the battle, when Nimona tells us she has a Team Pictate to battle with us. Geeta asks to observe and we head to the gym battlefield once again. This is a good time to refresh you all on the current team. Nimona leads with her midday Lycanroc. Obviously it gets one shot by a flower trick. Gumi's out next and I match her dragon with my own, Shelgon. A single Dragon Claw takes care of Gumi and it's Pormo's turn. The OG Go-Go takes it down with a Bulldoze and onto the final Pokemon. The starter we didn't choose, Skeledirge. I rival it with Azumarill. She terastallizes to a pure fire type, but it's just a waste of time. My team is so overleveled, Azumarill demolishes Skeledirge with an Aqua Tail. I feel bad taking down her team like that, but it's just the nature of this game, doing badges out of order and receiving high level Pokemon in a trade. That leaves us with one final thing to do, find a Pokemon for our next trades. Just outside of Alfonada, I grabbed this Fido. Thanks for watching and I'll hopefully see you in the next episode.